I'm going to show you the third and final form for a linear equation. It's called point-slope form. So let's recap what we've done so far. We have slope-intercept form. That's our first one, where the equation, from the equation we can read off the slope and the y-intercept. Then there was standard form, and this is a very useful form for finding the x and y-intercept. So we zero out, if we want the x-intercept, we zero out the y and solve for x. If we want the y-intercept, we zero out the x and solve for y. So that's very useful for the intercept method. We can use that for graphing. Finally, there's the point-slope form. This is a very useful form for writing the equation. You can use it as a graphing tool, but it's most useful when you are given some points where there's not enough information to use one of the other two forms. This form will work no matter what information you're given. And it looks like this. Okay, so you can see, you should be able to recognize the slope here. That's m, so it's still just like this one, it's on the right side of the equation. And you can kind of see the mx here, right? Okay, but this time with the x variable, we're putting in a number. So this will be x minus some number, which will be an x coordinate. And on the left side will be y minus a number. We're calling it y1, which will be part of some coordinate. And if you put the x1 and the y1 together, you get an ordered pair that the line passes through. So the line that we're trying to describe will pass through x1, y1. And it will have the slope of m. So it has those two qualities. So if we know any point on the line and we know the slope of the line, then we can use this equation and write the linear equation. Okay, so slope-intercept is similar, but the only thing is that you can't have any point really to write this form. You need the y-intercept. That's a very specific point. This one, we can do any point that falls on the line to build the linear equation. So it makes it very powerful. Okay, so it's our last form. Let's get started and practice with it. So we're going to be given a point on the line at the slope of the line and write the linear equation. And then I notice it says leave your answer in point-slope form. Okay, so that's that new form we're learning. All right, so pay attention to the directions because they're going to change this now. Now that we've learned three forms, it's going to specify which one to leave your answer in. All right, so let's take a look at the information we're given. Here we're given a point that is on the line. So that's the given point on the line right here. And the slope of the line. And now we're going to write an answer in point-slope form. So now you need to start practicing this form. Let's write the formula for it. So it's y minus y1 equals m times, and so we need a grouping symbol, and then in the grouping symbol x minus x1. Okay, so hopefully we're all good with m is right here, so m is our slope, and x1 and y1 is from the ordered pair x1 and y1. So I'm just going to label everything, and then I just substitute those values in. Okay, so y minus, and now instead of y1, we put the number, which is in that spot, so 1. Substitute that value in. Instead of m, we write the slope of 2/3. Instead of, so we write the variable x, so that's coming down, but in place of x1, we write that coordinate of -6. And there is point-slope form. Now, it could be simplified because of that double negative, so you want to make sure you do your final answer in that form, y equals 2/3 x double negative plus 1. I'm going to circle my answer. Okay. And you will notice that. I just want to make a special note here. In the formula, you see how it says y minus 1, but the coordinate is +1? You should observe that when using point slope form, you always kind of have this opposite relationship here. So the point is 1, this is -1. Look at the x-coordinate. The x-coordinate is -6, but in the form, because of that double negative minus negative, we end up with a plus sign there. So that always kind of happens, and it's a useful tool for us to write quickly. We don't have to write this extra step. We can just go right into simplified form. Minus a negative will be plus. So it's kind of like this opposite relationship in the formula, okay? Oh, I just noticed something. Did you guys catch it? That's an error right there. Minus a -6, but I wrote +1. So let's fix it now. Okay, so I'm gonna make that +6. It's kind of cool to kind of spend a little time looking at your answer to make sure it's right. Hopefully I haven't done that too much in these lessons. Wrong answers, I mean. Okay, so again, look at the information you're given. So we have our x1 and our y1, and the slope is -4. That's going to be the m. Let's put it into the form. So it's y minus, and then you put the y coordinate. It's positive, so I just write minus 2 pi. I don't change it to a plus sign. Okay, so it's opposites. Equals. All right, so next we're going to do the m, which is -4. -4, grouping symbol, x minus x1. So x minus, and since there's not another negative, I just write x minus 1. Notice opposites. +1 coordinate, -1 inside the formula, opposites. And no simplifying is possible, and we're supposed to leave it in that form, so I am done. Okay. Take a look at the directions in the next section. It says we're going to do the same thing as in example 1, but this time we're going to write our answer in slope-intercept form. Okay, so this form is what my answer should look like, so it's going to be y equals mx plus b form now. All right, so let's take a look at what we're given. I can see I have m, the slope is 1, and then there's a 7, 0. Hey, there's a 0. But that's the y is 0. That's an x-intercept. So as much as I would like to put b being 7, I can't, because b has to be in the form. B is the y-intercept, and this is an x-intercept. So no, you can't do that. All right, so I'm going to use point slope form to help me, and then I'll solve for y to get it to look like this. Okay, so if you're not given the y-intercept, you can't just plug in a number there. You've got to have a y-intercept for that. So when that happens, use point slope form first. Let me make a note of that. Use point slope, and I think you can see I've abbreviated point for PT as PT, point slope form first. Little note to self. All right, so I'm going to label x1, y1, and this is m. All right, so y minus y1, which is 0, equals the slope, which is 1, x minus x1, which is 7. So there it is, okay? And then this says make sure your answer is in slope-intercept form, so I've got to keep going. I have to solve for y, and there shouldn't be any parentheses in my answer, so I've got to distribute. Let's do it. Y minus 0 is y. If I multiply by 1, doesn't change anything on the inside, so it just stays as x minus 7, and there it is, mx plus b. Okay, all done. All right, let's do it again. Here is my ordered pair, so that's going to be x1, y1, and my slope. Y minus -5. Well, if I'm going to do minus a -5, that's going to become a +5, giving me that opposites appeal, right? So -5 here, +5 here, and that's a y coordinate. Make sure you're not putting the x coordinate in. All right, slope. Grouping symbol. All right, we do the variable x minus, and then we plug in the x coordinate. Oh, that one's -2. So I'm going to have minus a negative number, which makes it positive. And +8. Again, +8, -8 here. Always the opposites. Point slope form does that. All right, so now I need to get it into the mx plus b form. So I need to solve for y. Can't have any parentheses, so I got some work to do here. I got to distribute and all that business. So let's start with that. I'll keep the left side the same and distribute. -3/4 times each term. All right, -3/4 x, and now I'm going to multiply -3/4 times 8. And so that, let me do a little side math. -3/4 times 8. I'll put a 1 underneath, and the 4 and the 8 reduce. Divide by 4. That gives me -6. Okay, so -6. And then the last thing I have to do is solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 5, and that gives me y equals -3/4 x, and then these two combine to give us -11. And that's my answer. All right, so we started with point slope form, but solve for y to get it in slope intercept form. All right, a couple more practices. Check what the instructions says. 2 points are given to us, and we're supposed to write the linear equation, and the form we're supposed to end up in is slope intercept form. We're given 2 points, and if I want to use the point slope form, I need a slope. So first step is to get that slope. All right, so m is equal to, and let's label our points. First point and second point. All right, slope formula. So we're going to subtract the y coordinates, y2 minus y1. And in the denominator, x2 minus x1. Simplify. All right, so now I have the slope of the line. And I'm going to use, by convention, I'm just going to use the first point, x1, y1. I could use x2, y2, and I will end up with the same equation. It doesn't matter which one you pick. But I'll just go ahead and start with the first one since we use x1 and y1 in the formula. Okay, it's really arbitrary. So y minus y1, which is 4. So y minus 4, notice opposites, +4, -4. Now we do the slope, -2, grouping symbol, the variable x, minus, and now we're going to put x1, which is a 2, so -2, -2, +2, opposites, so I'm good to go, checking all my parts, and there it is. No simplifying I can do in point slope form, so that's good, but it wants slope intercept, so I got to solve for y. Distribute the parentheses first. So y minus 4, -2x, -2, -2, that's going to be multiplied and give us +4. And then finally, I'm going to add 4 to both sides to isolate y. Here we go. All right, and one more. Okay, 2 points. I need a slope. You always need a slope if you're writing equations. So we're going to have to do that slope formula first. So m. So how about labeling? x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay. Subtract the y's first. y2 minus y1. Subtract the x's. 3 and negative 2, we're going to subtract those. 3 minus negative 2, oh, double negative, so that'll become a plus. 3 plus 2, right? And so m equals negative 5 in the numerator, 3 plus 2 in the denominator is positive 5, so my slope is negative 1. Form, y. Okay, which point should I use? It doesn't matter. You can use either one. Just for fun, let's use the second one, okay? So it's always the y variable, and then you take away the y coordinate, so minus negative 4. Okay, so I'm just using x2 and y2 this time. All right, put the slope here, negative 1. Grouping symbol. X minus, and then the x coordinate. I have to use the one that goes with y2 since I'm using this pair, so 3. Okay. All right, so this is y plus 4. And then how about if I distribute here? Okay, so it's negative 1x, and negative 1 times negative 3, positive 3. And then solve for y. I'm subtracting 4 from both sides. So y equals, and it's conventional that we don't usually write 1s in front of the coefficient of 1. We just kind of leave the 1 off. I'll leave that, but you have to keep the negative. You can't just get rid of that. So negative x, and then this is negative 1. And it's not wrong to leave the 1, just conventionally we write it like this. And so there's my answer in slope-intercept form. It's time for you to do practice on your own.